Hi, everybody. My next guest made a huge impact on my world because it dramatically shortened the amount of time that I spend in the gym. I'm typically in and out within about 15 minutes. I don't break a sweat, but I just watch the amounts of weights that I'm able to move become larger and larger. They're the authors of Deep Fitness. It's a way to intelligently work out so that you are spending less time and getting greater benefits. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Next Level Healing. I'm super excited today because this is a fabulous biohack that has changed my life. As soon as I came in touch with this book, I dramatically cut my time in the gym, but I just kept watching the weights increase as my muscles got stronger. So I fly in and out of the gym in 15 minutes. I don't break a sweat, but I keep getting stronger and stronger, which is so delightful to me. So I'm welcoming to the show today Andrei Yakovenko. He is the co-author of this book, Deep Fitness. He is originally from the Ukraine. He left Israel at the age of 20 with less than $5 in his pocket. 3 years later, he, along with his fiancée, permanently moved to Canada. He studied science and built a successful career as a partner in a geophysics business. Years later, he came across the book Body by Science, which introduced him to the scientific principles of high-intensity strength training, otherwise known as HIIT. After putting the training principles into practice with a group of friends, Andrei saw profound physical changes and began learning as much as he could about high-intensity strength training and its unmatched health benefits. He discovered how proper exercise, in particular HIIT, has had the power to transform lives, including his own. Andrei decided to leave his highly paid career in geophysics and set up New Element Training, a group of premier high-intensity strength training studios in Toronto, Canada, which specializes in the time-efficient method of mindful strength training to failure. Andrei, I'm so grateful that you're joining us today. You have changed my life.
Well, hi, Tara. It's my pleasure. And come on.
No, I'm not kidding you. So a dear friend of mine, she's a former Miss Alabama. She's an amazing human and is still in incredible shape. And she turned me on to your book, letting me know that, yes, that I could spend a whole lot less time working out and still get the amazing benefits. She learned it from a special forces guy that was doing work on her home. So yeah, tell us about your journey, how you discovered this, because anything that cuts the time in the gym really, it's a third.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, I laugh because I go in and out. I don't break a sweat. And I just watch my muscles get stronger and stronger, which we're going to discover in this interview how important that is, because I believe it was, back in 1988, that the word sarcopenia first came into existence. And that is the withering away of muscles. And that has profound implications on our life, including increased all-cause mortality.
Exactly. In fact, when we look at studies on human longevity, in general, big epidemiological studies, muscle strength, it's kind of one, or maybe some argue number two, but definitely number one or two predictor of our longevity as well, when you look at larger population studies. So people who have more muscle strength, they tend to live not only better, but a bit longer as well.
Now, this was a huge surprise to me because I always thought about the bodybuilders that, just got all puffed up and, I thought they had decreased flexibility. I was blown away when there's studies that actually prove the opposite. Can you talk about that? Because I just could not believe how many body metrics in terms of health and anti-aging are increased by preserving your muscle mass.
Well, I'm telling you, Tara, when I introduce all new clients to New Element Training, I sum it up at the end. If you find one single intervention that under a single umbrella will give you as many benefits in and out, mental, psychological, physiological, in 30 minutes, I offer you free training for a year. Even something that matches it. I'm not aware of it. So it's so big and so important. And frankly, I discovered, after reading Body by Science, but I didn't stop at Body by Science. I went and actually read the research, decided, and I lost myself into this, world of this style of training and all the research behind it. And that eventually led me to open element training, because why? If you get all these benefits, and as I said, in 15, 20 minutes a week, why would you go to the gym and spend hours and not even sure what you know what you're doing, right?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, and it's very inspiring to see measurable results so easily and so quickly.
Yeah, so every client, when they come to us, I don't want to plug element training too much, but essentially it's like you cannot not get stronger with this methodology. If you listen to us, you follow in our cues, and you're consistent, it's impossible not to get stronger. Everybody gets stronger, regardless of their age. We have clients as old as 94, and even they still getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because my mom is 90 and she's rather thin. Thank God she's in great health. Phenomenal health. I'm so happy and excited. But she actually wanted me to ask you about older people. They can just apply this method the way you talk about in your book.
You have to be careful, of course, because people have weaknesses, physical elements, injuries. So it's always good to be supervised, at least initially, if there are those. But if anything, in the book, we demonstrate some, fairly basic, safe body weight exercises and, kind of different variations. You can always, for example, do wall sit, but don't go too deep, just maybe bend in just a little bit, see what you can do, right? Next time you do it, maybe try to challenge yourself, and so on and so forth. So one of the foundational principles of getting stronger is progressive resistance, meaning, each time when we train, the workout in itself essentially is a stimulus to send all the signaling, for all those positive adaptations, then give your body the right amount of recovery and adaptation window, that kind of therapeutic window, I would say 3 to 7 days, and then maintain consistency. And each time when you do those exercises, go 5 seconds longer or make it a little bit harder, increasing weight or maybe changing how you do your, body weight exercise. And then everybody can start at their level there right now, right? And slowly challenge that level, slowly and surely. So of course, it's always better to be supervised, but if you're motivated, you can do it as well.
Hey guys, studies are showing that 68% of people that watch podcasts regularly don't click the subscribe button. Do me a huge favor. If you like this content, click subscribe so other people know where to go for the cool stuff. Thank you. I love how it's kind of all wrapped up in the title, Mindful Strength Training to Failure. So it's slow, properly done resistance training that basically takes the muscle to failure between 90 and 120 seconds. Did I get that correct?
More or less. The only thing, time is less of important. Of course, you don't want to do something super light that takes you 5 minutes before each failure. So, 90, 100 minutes is a good, I would say, for intermediate trainee. If you're beginner, probably use resistance. Maybe it will take you 3 minutes before you reach failure, because there is that neurological learning process for your body. Sometimes I have clients after a year, they finally I get this, right? Something clicked in. It's a slow process. So I would, if you use resistance too much because you want to fail within 90 seconds, often than not, you're going to break the form and you're not going to use the right muscles anyway. So you start light to moderate, right? Go a little bit longer before you reach failure. Make sure the body has time to learn the exercise. And then you start making it harder, and then, aim for about 1.5 minutes.
Let's talk about the psychology of taking something to failure, because this was really an interesting awareness exercise for me, because we think of failing as being a bad thing. But with your work, it's actually the goal. So tell us about the psychology of that.
Failure in our context is success. In fact, our very first t-shirt I made for element training, it said, "It feels good to fail." Of course, you take it outside the gym, people look, what kind of gym is it? They don't want you to fail. But it's kind of inside joke. So there's a couple of things with this style of training. One, as you mentioned, slow movement. Why we care about slow movement? Well, basically, if you want to make muscles stronger, it's really not about repetition. It's not about the weight. It's about thoroughly working through your muscle. right? So when you go slower, you're more mindful, you're watching your form, and you're doing the exercises more from the muscle that you're trying to target rather than using momentum. So you deeply stimulate the muscle. And, you're moving slowly. Why slow is important? Because it reduces acceleration, and acceleration reduces force. So this style of training allows us to work hard. Failure is not easy, but super safe on the joints. So you're not going to compromise the health of your joints, as long as you're doing it properly, right? And if you have injury-free and so on. So it's a very slow movement, and each repetition basically lifting from the muscle, not momentum. In each repetition, as you know, feels harder than the one before, and then harder, and it goes on and on. So what happens in the beginning of the set, our brain is still in this so-called parasympathetic nervous system. We relax. Our brain pays attention to the background. We can talk about this, that. But as the intensity grows, it's getting more real. All of a sudden, the brain tells you, okay, start paying attention, because let's put some effort. So your brain thinks with this level of intensive work, you are kind of approaching some sort of life-threatening situation, because 20,000 years ago, that would be maybe being attacked by a tiger. So the higher the intensity of the muscular work, the exponentially more adrenaline the body will dump to make you focus, to make you a bit agitated and focus, you can pay attention. So when you reach a good quality failure, when you in this state where all the personal problems go away, you in this kind of little bit panicky state, and you're just being present and trying to really focus and survive this moment, and you can't think of anything else. So that's kind of when you start activating sympathetic nervous system from the top of adrenaline. And when we do that, that's kind of the magic. That's the secret juice of this training. When we activate the sympathetic nervous system, we activate those powerhouse muscle fibers, the fast twitch. We can maybe talk about them. Super important, and we lose them as we get older, but super important to stimulate them. We're exponentially more depleting glycogen out of the muscle, right? We're releasing more of those, remember, chemical messages, myokines, they act like hormones. So the larger the muscle, the more. So we're activating epigenetically certain genes that the body never goes to. So there's so many things happening that simply you get an effect of this workout, which is greater than the sum of all parts. You're not going to get those kind of benefits until you go that deeply into, intensity of the workout. And the beautiful part about this, yes, it's hard, but it's super safe. Like, it's ideal for older demographics, because if it doesn't make sense to take 3 pounds dumbbells and go up and down, count reps, doesn't do anything for you. But I'm telling you, we have clients in their 80s, they're doing their medicals, and they show an increase in bone mineral density and lean muscle mass. And the technician doing the test, they're like, they're amazed. They never see women of that age reversing that, right? So now it gives people this, hope that they already get used to the idea where, you're going to get older and weaker, like nothing you can do about it, right? But now all of a sudden you can reverse it and, see that spark in the clients, like they're actually getting strong and so excited. And it's a beautiful thing. So, that's why I stuck with this style of training and committed to it, because it works. Why do anything else? So we're specialists. When you come, you already come for this. We don't have treadmill. We don't have anything else. We just focus on this because it works. And for your time, in terms of efficiency, as far as I'm concerned personally, is as efficient as any exercise gets. Long explanation, but...
No, I love it. That was a perfect explanation. I actually just interviewed Harvard researcher and professor Ellen Langer earlier today, and it's so important to inspire people that old doesn't have to be decrepit. I did an interview with my mother at age 90. She, is rocking it, and I responded to it overwhelmingly. It's really so powerful to give older people a tool that is easier and safer. Of course, you do have to do the exercises, of course, with good form. So whoever you need to get to show you that good form, but you're doing them so slowly that it makes sense that it would statistically be safer. So let's talk about the American Western culture is getting weaker as time goes by. We have so many labor-saving devices. You have in your book that between age 20 and 80, we lose 35 to 40% of our strength, and that's so important because it's linked to so many illnesses, stuff that we don't even think about, heart disease, cancer, chronic lower respiratory disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes. It was estimated in 2000 that the cost of this sarcopenia, the wasting away of muscle, is as high as $26.2 billion. That's nuts.
And the reality with, if only on a population level, we knew how muscle is important, and there was enough education how we take care of it effectively. Because anybody can open a gym, but you walk in every day, average person hates gyms, right? They don't like the culture, so they need places more like ours, right, that specialize in strength training and offer, structured, effective solution that you can stick with it in the long term, because it's not really about specific modality. Frankly, I tell everybody, if you're doing something that you're already doing and you like it, the key is to do something, and you're not going to hurt yourself. If you like 6 days a week, do 6 days a week, as long as you're doing it, actually helping. But the uniqueness about our approach that we're advocating is so time efficient, right? And it's very safe. So when it's only 30 minutes once or twice a week, twice a week, I would say optimal, but once a week still works. And it's very, very safe for the joints. And you see the effect of it, you're getting stronger, you're more likely to stick with it, right? And that's where the changes happen. So the best I've seen, clients who have known for years, again, we have clients in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And those I've been seeing for years, every single one of them look way better today than I met them. Like this, they stand better, taller, they have more energy, more youthfulness. Like it's just, what was the question?
Well, I'd love to just dive a little bit more. We were talking about how the Western culture is getting weaker because we've got so many labor-saving devices, but also the importance and the need for having strong muscles and how much it's costing us to be a weaker culture. And again, if we can simply and easily, with not that many minutes in our week, resolve those problems, how fabulous is that? I love that you went into the science, because my dad got into Kenneth Cooper way back in the day when he published his book Aerobics. My father thought that was the key to everything, and actually the whole world did. It was published in 41 different languages, including Braille, and distributed 30 million copies worldwide. But even Kenneth Cooper discovered that, because he had this whole point system and thought that just the heart muscle was the most important. But even he started discovering that there were flaws in that thinking, because the thinking used to be that aerobics cardio was number 1, flexibility was number 2, and weight training was number 3. And now we're starting to realize that it's probably upside down and that strength training is number 1. Do you want to comment on that and how Kenneth Cooper came to understand that there was flaws in that ideology?
Well, I think it just, as the time passed by and then he saw his friends who were super athletes, supposed to live until 100 and they were dying at early age. That was, some red flags. And then eventually, as more and more research came out, showing the importance of muscle, he, I guess, was open-minded enough to change his views. But unfortunately, by that time, it's been like 10, 20 years since publication of his book, and now everybody were writing his product became bigger than him, right? And that's it. The thing is, with why we care about the muscle, so importantly, first of all, with our specific style of training, you can stimulate 3 levels of notation. So you can grow stronger, you can improve your flexibility, right? And you can also improve your cardiovascular risk factor. Now, so cardiovascular, not risk factor, aerobic health, aerobic fitness, right? Sorry. And, it just has to be done specific way. And when you do that, so you get a total conditioning effect. So what happens, generally speaking, just overall, why muscle is important, it's just one example of it, is that muscles are made of protein. And protein, after water, is the second most essentially abundant element in our body. Everything in our body made of specific proteins. Proteins are made from amino acids, because the amino acids are building blocks of protein. They're so important. Nearly every physiological function in the body requires certain amino acids, right? And for that reason, the body will maintain constant supply of those amino acids in the blood 24/7. Where are we getting them? Well, we get them from food, but we're also getting them from the muscle. So the muscle is the storage, is the reservoir for those amino acids that the body needs it for nearly every function, right? And when you look at the research, it shows that people who have muscle strength they stay less in hospitals, right? They recover much faster from infections, injury, and so on. There's something like 30% improvement in cancer recovery. Remember, there was a paper, list goes on and on and on. So basically, if you have muscle strength, you have larger supply of the amino acids. And the moment our body cannot maintain constant supply of the amino acids in the blood, we perish, essentially we die. So muscle is also the storage of those amino acids the body needs as you get older, right? And then things happen, you get, ill and so on and so forth. So the more muscle tissue you have, the faster statistically more likely you're going to recover.
And falling is a huge risk for older people. And so if you have strong muscles, your ability to respond to, an improper step or losing your balance or something is exponentially better, isn't it?
100%. And I frankly, it's been a while since we published the book, but, there are some numbers that are just, crazy. Like in the United States, like every few minutes or seconds, somebody falls. And, if you over 65 or 70 or something like that, again, I don't want to throw the numbers to remember, but something like 60, 70, something percent of people never recover from those falls.
Yeah.
And generally, the more people get ill and get bedridden, particularly at older age, they lose muscle during that time, right? But they never recover to the same level, right? Unless you do strength training.
Yeah.
Then it's possible to get the muscles back.
Yeah.
We can, go forever.
Can you just speak a minute to the science? So we take a muscle to failure. Basically, what really hit me strongly was when the muscle fails, it gets a really strong signal that it needs to get to work and make it stronger. And so can you talk about the physiology behind that? And part two to that, which even Tony Robbins has figured this out. He was overtraining, as a lot of people do. It's the repair time that matters so much. So you have to take it to failure, give it that strong cue that it needs to get stronger, and then you have to leave it alone for a certain amount of time. So Can you talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. So the higher the intensity of the workout, first of all, the briefer the workout is going to be. Otherwise, it just won't be productive if you're not working hard, right? And brief won't do much for you. But also, the less infrequent the workout is going to be, because the body will need more recovery time, from an intensive session than from a typical session. So in terms of muscle failures, basically what happens, we have three types of muscle fibers. The lower order muscle fibers are so-called slow twitch. They're responsible for steady state kind of endurance-based activity. Takes them about 90 seconds to recover. So you remember Doug McGuffin, Body by Science, talks about it. Then we have the second type of muscle fiber, intermediate twitch. And then so the body will sequentially use those different types of muscle fibers. It will start from the lower order slow twitch first. As they get exhausted, only when they get exhausted, the body will sequentially switch to, not switch, but still use those slow twitch. But on top of that, it's going to start enlisting, recruiting the intermediate twitch. Once we go through the intermediate twitch, once those are exhausted, then, we start activating the sympathetic adrenaline, stimulated response. And this is where we tell in the brain, this is the time to enlist our emergency powerhouse muscle fibers, fast twitch fibers. So those fibers, why you need them? Well, when you slip on the ice to catch yourself, that's quick catch, that's fast twitch fiber. They're structurally largest of the three types, meaning the more metabolically active, they have more insulin receptors, but also have more cushion if you fall down to withstand an injury, and so on. So what happens with age, our body converts fast twitch to slow twitch. So when we say people lose muscle with age, in reality, the same token, essentially we can say they lose fast twitch fibers. So with this style of training, this is kind of how it works. It's a sequential recruitment of different types of muscle fibers. So make sure you're moving slowly, feel the right muscles, and just really mindfully going, one rep at a time, one movement at a time, 1 second at a time, 1 inch at a time. Take your time and feel that gradual exhaustion going from here and then here. And then once you feel in that little bit agitation and that hyper focus, from that of adrenaline, that's essentially the zone ideally you want to take yourself, because you start when you feel that sympathetic nervous system response. That's what those fast twitch fibers are for. That's when they're going to be enlisted. And essentially, once you run through your all available fast twitch fibers, it's a very important signal to your body. I have there like a bunch of dormant fast twitch fibers that been atrophied, haven't been used for years. We need them because we're kind of almost died here. So that's kind of in sort of reason to stay and to work that intensely, because it really goes into those, the strongest of the fibers. And then,
So
in terms of recovery, so basically, because the workout of this style is quite intense, right? Taking muscle to failure, it's hard work. As I mentioned, the more the intensity of the workout, the longer recovery body needs. The body will create adaptations only after it's recovered. It has to recover first. So let's say if this is our energy level, kind of here, after the workout, you're in the hole. Your central nervous system is overstimulated. That needs time to recover. You created all this, micro tears, in the muscle fibers, which creates inflammation. That, needs time to settle. Fast twitch fibers takes longer to recover. So it needs at least a couple of days for an average person to feel normal again. And then day 3, 4, 5 or so, that's where the body overcompensates and invests in itself and makes you stronger. Eventually, so now your base level of strength is higher. Eventually, if you wait for too long, 2 weeks or more, you're probably going to decompensate and you're going to end up how you were before. But even after 7 days, maybe decompensation already started to happen a little bit. But on average, you're still going to be stronger in the muscles that you stimulated a week before. That's why even with single session, when you apply this kind of method, you can grow stronger and stronger and stronger because the recovery is as important as the stimulus, the workout itself. If you do too much stimulus, not enough recovery, you're just going to kind of shoot yourself in the foot because you won't give your body time to, properly recover, and you're just going to overtrain yourself.
Can you talk a little about the science behind? I was really shocked. There was like a study where they were looking at gymnasts and bodybuilders, and the bodybuilders in some ways had flexibility equivalent or better than the gymnasts. Why would having strong muscles make you more flexible?
Well, no, to be honest, it's been a couple of years since I read my book. Specific study might not be very clear to me right now. But I could say this. When there's 2 types of movements. There are so-called compound movements, when it's a multi-joint movement that we use more than one joint. And there is a single joint, more like a rotary movement, where you kind of just moving around one joint. So when you do compound movement, the muscle is kind of there in the chain, they're all interconnected. So it's really impossible to take any given muscle to its full range of motion potential. But when you do the exercise, when you combine those multi-joint exercises with single joint, which when you have a good quality, tool, device, like medics use at your mechanical, such a good quality. So it's really engineered with precision to safely take your muscles to the fully stretched, full range of motion position. So then you get the benefit of also stretch during your workout. So you're both stretching and stimulating the muscle at the same time. So it's that not every bodybuilder, is going to be as flexible as gymnasts or so on, but depends on the tools you use and depends on your, how good you are and how much you understand how things work.
So since you work with a broad variety of age groups, among all the populations, what do they tell you are the biggest benefits that they feel in their lives as a result of doing this work?
They just feel stronger, literally just feel stronger. Like I have mid-70s, late 70s, go on a ski vacation, love skiing, and then coming back saying, I haven't skied like this in 10 years, right? Every day, like every week, there's somebody tells they did something, physically. Lady, I'm trained virtually from New York and, just using bodyweight exercises. Mid-60s, she said, I just went on a bike ride and it felt so strong. Like it's been a while since I felt this strong. So it just every day, physical movement, energy level, you just feel like stronger, version of yourself, fitter version of yourself.
And I love this for older people and women, as far as avoiding osteoporosis. I think that's the number one way to avoid osteoporosis is strength training. And, people, nobody wants to end up in a nursing home.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, again, I had a client today, he told me, I think a week ago, so he said all his friends, he's probably late 70s. He said all his friends look so, and he said, like, I'm still here because, like, I don't want to be one of them. And you just do it because it really, and it's not just us, there's so much research, as you know, right? Shows that when you do that, you buying yourself definitely more quality years, your well-being is better, your health span is better, you're more active, you delay, and we're all going to die eventually. But the idea, at least with this, what we do is kind of dying, in the end faster than, like that gradual, like takes you 10, 15 years, nursing home and that. But, we're just active, physically able. Then time comes, boom, we go. That's it.
Yeah, that's how I want to go.
Yeah, exactly.
What does it do to the mitochondria in the cells? Because that's your energy, your powerhouse. What specifically does it do to the mitochondria, if anything specific?
Well, again, it's been a while since I look at, the research in public, but it does improve mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning it will grow the number of mitochondria in your cells. Because of this aerobic system, we're overloaded, right? Mitochondria can only take, so much energy at a time, and we continuously go to failure. We don't give our muscles time, any break. And remember, it's a continuous tension. You finish your workout, but your cells in the muscle still absorbing, that extra energy that you created. So basically, as far as your muscle cell goes, like you're still working out for another half an hour after the workout because of, anyway, it's called the Krebs cycle, in biology. And, when you train this way, you kind of pushing your system to the limit, and the body responds by adapting and making you stronger on so many different levels.
So it seems like that would also result in increased energy and also potentially fat loss?
Well, fat loss is kind of it's a different topic.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
We all know that you can't exercise a bad diet, but speaking of fat loss, it's so important. Large majority of more popular diet, they kind of ignore muscle, right? They just say, just check your total weight. But when you look at the research, it's probably most common research shows 20-25% of weight comes from lean tissue. I've seen research up to 60% of weight on the fat loss programs came from lean tissue. So now you just compromise your metabolic health. Lean tissue, you want to increase, you don't want to decrease. And what happens, any form of calorie kind of deficit programs will make you lose weight, right? But when you gain it, the bulk of it's not going to come as lean tissue, it's going to return as fat. Now, your metabolic rate, which is directly connected to our lean tissue, not anything else, not even gender or age as much as lean tissue, is much slower. But you're going to eat. And now you're burning less calories per day, but you're kind of eating more. And that's where's it going to go? They're going to go as fat again to fat. And then yo-yo diet, and, in a long term, you're in a worse shape than you started. So when we're talking about fat loss, it's super important to do strength training, to preserve lean tissue, and higher protein nutrition, again, to preserve lean tissue. So when you do, and just kind of reduce the calories somehow, 1 calorie is still better, right? And then when you have that basic formula, a little bit less calories, so the body will, be in catabolic state, breaking down state, higher protein intake to preserve lean tissue, and do strength training to stimulate it. Now we're channeling, the weight loss into the fat. We have this program we run, 2-3 times a year, call it 6-week metabolic reset. Again, don't want to plug it. But when people go through that program, regardless of the age, you have women at the 50s, 60s, everybody losing fat, and have most people gain lean tissue, like 4 or 5 pounds of lean tissue, while losing, between 5 to 10 pounds of body fat. So regardless of, their conditions, menopause, doesn't matter. If you stick with it, it works. So there are strategies to do it the right way, the long term, right? To preserve lean tissue, you want to increase it and get into the fat rather than total weight. Anyway,
so is that a program that you have at your facilities there, or is it available virtually?
Something I develop. And people through our website, they just read the book, and they go and they just subscribe to the newsletters. I think we're starting one next month. So what I do, I send an email. The program is on. You hear what people say from the last time we did it, and it's amazing. And it's like you can be anywhere and you can do the program. So they're supervised by nutritionists. It's very structured. There's like 100-page document. It's everything you need to know. A bunch of videos. We do a Q&A, once a week. You have like a social exchange, chat group. Like it's fully, everything is what you need to know is from turnkey from week 1 to week 6. And so basically exercise does burn some fat, but it's not enough to exercise, to out-exercise, calories.
Yeah. How much time does the 6 weeks program take per day?
Well, it's basically, if to summarize it, there's kind of couple phases. Phase one, what we do, we make you fat adapted first, right? So you do it, intermittent fasting, 2 meals. Each of those meals higher protein than you would normally eat. That's the most complaint. Oh, I can't eat so much protein. You have to, because with all the fasting, all the stuff, you're going to be losing muscle. We need to counteract it, right? It's higher protein. And then, so the first week, we kind of giving you more healthy fats, so the body get used to, and we drop in the carbs, of course, right? So after about week 10 days, you kind of become fat adapted, your energy is back, you have that effect of ketones in your brain, you feel clear and so on. And then we start reducing the fat intake a little bit. The protein is always high, but we start replacing with fat and kind of telling people you should be losing between 1 to 3 pounds of weight, total weight a week, because if you lose more than 3 pounds a week, more likely than not you're losing in tissue. Less than 1 pound, well, maybe it's not your goal, that's fine. And then once people fat adapted, we feeding them higher protein and reducing their calorie by obviously eating, relatively low carb and reducing the fat intake. Now the body knows how to use fat for energy, and becomes flexible in using your own stored body fat, and it just goes into that. And then again, when we measure people before and after, I'd be amazed. When you look at the research, they say it's especially impossible, particularly over age of 30, to lose just fat without losing some muscle. And if you're older, forget about it. Like I see, doesn't matter how old you are, our clients somehow, when we measure them, we have this device that measures them. They maintain or increase lean tissue, yet they lose fat. So anyway, so it's kind of like there's phases of this program, how we take it.
Sounds like you should be doing a documentary too.
Well, we'll see. We actually, nutritionist and I were planning to create like a separate website. Right now it's not really element training, but the program is so good, I think it has much larger potential than being, limited.
So what is the website that people go to find out more about you, get your newsletter, learn about the program?
So our company name, newelementtraining.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time you visit, have a pop-up window, do you want to subscribe to a newsletter? If you just put your email, then, you will be on our newsletter list, and just keep an eye, because I'm going to be sending an email about this specific reset in probably a week or two.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure I could talk to you for a week, but your book, Deep Fitness, and it literally reduced my time in the gym dramatically. I can go in and out. Honestly, it takes 15 minutes for me to do 6 exercises to failure. And I hope I picked good exercises. Well, let's say hello to Philip, since he's joined us here real quickly. This is the other author of the book. Hey, Philip. Sorry we missed you early on. It's okay. Andrei did a great job.
Well, I have no doubt that he did. I have no doubt that he did.
He's a pro, as you know. Both you guys are amazing. I love your book, and it changed my life. It was referred to me from very reliable sources. And I know the principles are totally rocking it. Even Tony Robbins, is talking about it. Just the wisdom of taking a muscle to failure as quickly as possible, and then letting it rest so that it can receive all the goodies. And you guys do such a great job. You can see I've dog-eared the pages and marked all the exercises, and created a program for myself to go into the gym 2 days a week. And I just watch the weights, they get heavier and heavier, and it's just so much more efficient.
How long have you been doing it for?
Gosh, I want to say 9 months or a year. I don't even remember when I started, something like that.
Yeah. I've been doing it for 6.5 years.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still getting stronger. My weights are not, but they're incrementally going up. And I'm 71. And if you'd asked me 30 years ago, imagine yourself at 71. This is not what I would have imagined, that I'm getting strong. Would have hoped that I'm not getting weaker too fast.
Well, and, I just was interviewing Ellen Langer earlier today, and she does a whole lot on anti-aging. And it's just so important to remain strong, have muscle tissue so that you don't fall prey to countless diseases. and falling. I mean, falling is such a kiss of death at an older age. I mean, it usually is a life-ending problem when you fall and break a bone as an older person. So to be able to avoid that intelligently without spending, hours and hours sweating your eyeballs out in the gym is kind of a no-brainer.
For me too. Yeah. Yeah. And then the other aspect that I bring to it is the mindful aspect that, especially when you're doing it slowly.
Yeah.
That capacity to be fully present to what you're doing. And instead of, we're so used to a top-down relationship with the body where, you know what the body should do for its own good and you make it do that. And it's such a different thing to drop into the body and just let the body release to this challenge, to let it meet it and to be present through it all. And what I find is that when I coach people to get out of their heads and into their bodies, that point of failure goes a little further because they're not, you get caught in stories. Oh, how much longer can I do this? Oh, I maybe one more. And the story sort of interprets the failure. And when you're really in the body, you can go until you truly fail. And then the benefits of the workout are increased by that.
So yeah, in just the last few minutes that we have here, I'd love to just touch on, you had an amazing life as a teenager. You cycled alone through Europe, the Middle East, Iran, India, Japan. You studied classical Japanese, is it No theater?
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. And have worked in interdisciplinary theater companies. So you're very mindfully oriented. And truly just, in fact, that's all about what Ellen Langer and I spoke about this morning. It's all about mindfulness. And the more mindful we can be, the less absent we are to life.
Yeah. And, my theater background, when you look at theater, for an actor, every practice, every exercise, every role you do is just another way of learning to be present. And I think our culture is confused between mind and brain.
Mm.
So, yes, the brain is in the head, but the mind suffuses the whole of the body. And how to tap into that intelligence and work with it rather than against it, it's something that took me some decades to learn.
And what we don't know not only can harm us, it actually can kill us.
Yeah, and it does. When you're living in the head, you're living in a state of self-conflict. And the attrition of that over years is, inestimable. And we wonder why we're exhausted. And when you really drop into the body, you connect with your purpose and your life is illuminated by that purpose. And if your life isn't illuminated by purpose, then it's going to be fragmented by distractions. And I think a lot of our culture is pulled to pieces by distractions because we're not embodied and we're not at one with our purpose.
And when you're living in your purpose, you're living more creatively. There's a very famous book out, I believe it's Dan Rubin, I want to say, on creativity. But when you're living your authentic creative self, there really is no competition because you're the only one of you around. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And the way I feel it is that each of us is created with a unique cluster of gifts, and the world is always whispering to us to put those gifts into service. And so, either you're deafened to that whisper or you attune to it. And if you attune to it, you're not in competition with others. You are just serving to the best of your ability in the way that you're called.
I love that. So great.
And I feel that in the workout, just to say, I feel, the gift of this embodied life summoned to explore its capacities and to meet that edge of failure, to linger there. It's like a deep encounter with the self. And the workout is the time in my week when I feel most alive. And so my body wants to get back to it, wants to get back to that aliveness.
And the key to success in anything is to link that positive feeling, that positive feedback to the activity and see the positive outcomes. So that just becomes like a self-fulfilling gyroscope that just makes more and more of that. Again, I'm just deeply grateful to have found your book. I understood the principles of it because, again, these are starting to get to be popular principles. From reading your book, I was able to create myself a 2-day workout. I literally go to the gym twice a week for about 15 minutes, take 6 muscle groups to failure. I have to just say it's way more efficient. I would say I also feel less body stiffness as a result of being stronger. I'm sure you probably hear that feedback a lot.
Well, I mean, for years, you have these chronic pains that just show up. And as I was doing the workout, I realized my shoulder's not hurting anymore. My back's not hurting. My hip. It's as the muscles come into balance and achieve tone, they take the weight off the joints, and you're not overcompensating with certain muscles for the weakness of other muscles. So absolutely, I've noticed the same thing and have heard it from others.
So I'm going to ask you, because you do have a lot of exercises in here, and I wanted to choose something manageable for 2 days. So on one day I do, and again, I'm just watching the weights pile in because my muscles are getting stronger. What used to be, the normal amount, it's too light now. So leg press, hamstrings. Let's see, I do biceps, triceps, pull down, and I mimic like a deadlift type of thing. So because I think you want to get those major axial planes so that you have whole body strength. So that's one day. And then another day, if I can remember this, I'm going to put myself on spot here. Inner thigh, outer thigh, crunch, because I know that's an important one. Chest press, and I know I do a pull down, and I do a shoulder press. Yeah. So those are a pretty good array of muscle groups, are they not?
Absolutely. The one thing I might suggest, if you wanted to add one, is if there's a practice where you're pushing with the elbows, or even with the hands, those.
Oh, I do a row.
Row is good. This is slightly different.
Okay.
Because there are muscles between the shoulder blades that we tend not to use. And let me show you the effect is, like, instead of standing like this, those muscles go slack. And this happens. Right? Which is that posture we achieve in age.
Yeah. And row doesn't get that, huh?
The row get it to some extent, but if you can feel your shoulder blades coming together like they're pinching a pencil.
Oh, yes.
That's the quality you want, a row is great for the back muscles and the lats, but those specific muscles that, if you can feel yourself pinching a pencil between your shoulder blades, those are the ones that tend to go slack. And
you know what? There was a time, and I'm glad you're reminding me, when I was doing these at home, and there's an exercise you have in here, I believe, where it's kind of that pinching of the shoulder blades, right?
With the resistance band. Yeah, there's one in there.
Okay. And it was really interesting how necessary that felt to strengthen those muscles.
Yes. Yeah. It really targets them in a way that nothing else does. And there's such an important part of the body's structure.
Can you just do that exercise really quickly for our watchers and listeners and show us how that's done?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got a resistance band. And you're holding it.
Yeah.
Between you're actually holding it like this between your hands.
Yeah.
And the important thing is not moving the resistance band. The important thing is that.
Yeah.
It's just that little motion.
Yeah.
You feel your shoulders coming together.
Yeah.
And the resistance band then helps. Like the first important thing is to is to feel those muscles. Some people can't even feel them. So to feel those muscles engage and release, and then you begin to increase the resistance, and you just work that. And you can see how when I pull back, my chest is lifting. It compensates for that collapse.
Yeah.
That tends to happen with age.
Yeah. And just lifting that sternum, that's been linked to increased happiness.
Yeah, there you go.
Philip, I am so delighted that you jumped in here for the end of this recording. I love your book. I love what you guys are doing. Anything that we can do to increase quality of life and longevity, I'm all about. So is there anything else you'd like to say? I know you missed all the wonderful science that we went over with Andrei.
Well, that's Andrei's wheelhouse. He's like, he never stops learning. He's always, and research is ongoing, and he's staying on top of it. So he's the expert at that. I apologize for having been held up, but boy,
it's totally fine. Andrei was a pro, as you know, and he did a great job. But I'm so glad you jumped on at the end here to just say hello to our audience and give us some extra tools on mindfulness.
Yeah, there you go. Such a pleasure, Tara. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Next Level Healing. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next episode of Next Level Healing.